Stoney Creek burns. The southern sky glows orange as Baridoc and the Dwarves arrive in Goldenfields after dark. Wolf riders prowl around the outskirts of town. The men of Goldenfields remain close, fearful of leaving their homes. Baridoc's arrival spurs the men to action, and as dawn arrives, they prepare to march out in force. Their preparations are interrupted, though, as the pickets fall back into town and warn of a large body of goblins approaching. The defenders of Goldenfields will be led by Baridoc Kingston, the Dwarf Prince, who now has the heroic trait Shield Wall. He's leading the Hammerheart Oathsworn, they're back, finally, 15 Dwarf Soldiers. We have Thazak, the level 2 Dwarf Wizard. He will have Brace and Explosive Ammunition. Thorgrin Shield Splitter, the Dwarf Champion. He will be leading the Spears of South Pass, 19 Dwarf Spearmen. We have the Stout Hearts, 10 Dwarf Archers. Avhilda, the Dwarf Light Catapult. And the forces of humans. We have the Goldenfield Guard, unit of human Longspears, led by Harbin Moore. The stats for this unit will be in the description below. We have Edmund the Ox. He has the heroic trait Stand Your Ground. He's not going to be caught by goblins again. And he is leading Edmund's lads, 9 human soldiers. And then we have the Goldenfields Bowmen, 10 human archers. The forces of the attackers will be led by Gralk, the Goblin Advisor. He has the heroic trait Turn the Line, and he will be leading a unit of 19 Goblin soldiers. We have Char, the level 2 Goblin Wizard. He has Courage and Fireball. Russ, the Goblin Captain, will be leading 19 Goblin Spearmen. Stirred, the Goblin Champion, will be leading 14 Goblin Soldiers. We have a unit of 10 Goblin Spearmen, 10 Goblin Archers, 5 Goblin Wolf Riders, 5 Goblin Wolf Rider Scouts, and 3 Ogre Linebreakers. Here we are, prepared for the Battle of Goldenfields. The humans are deployed, defending their village, while the dwarves are deployed out on the left flank to move through the fields. Gralk has his hammer deployed on his left flank. Heavy assault on the town with a smaller flanking force is going to be heading through the fields. The objective for the goblins is to start any turn with 4 units, at least 5 models strong, within 12 inches of the defender's table edge. Any buildings on the table will be impassable, and the fields will be difficult ground. But apart from that, everything else is clear. The game starts, as always, with an initiative roll, blue for the dwarves and ivory for the goblins. Looks like it goes to the dwarves with a 5 and 2. The dwarves start their turn by successfully activating Thazak, who then casts Brace on Edmund's lads. And both sides advance. Char activates and casts Courage onto Gralk and his bodyguard. The Wolf Rider Scouts on the flank advance and lob some arrows at the Spears of South Pass, killing one of the dwarves, who pass morale, barely. Avhilda launches a shot at the Ogre Linebreakers, but the shot is wide. At the end of turn 1, the Goblin line has advanced with no issues. First blood went to the Goblins, with one of the Dwarves of South Pass going down, while the rest of the line advances to meet the attackers. Turn 2 initiative. Goes to the Dwarves with a 5, but what does a double 1 do? So double 1s, one of the Dwarves and human champions, or officers, is hit by a sniper. Oh dear. The way I see it, there are 3 possible targets. There is Thorgrin, the Dwarf champion, leading the South Pass Spears. There is Edmund the Ox, leading Edmund's lads. And then there is Harbin, just a standard officer, but leading the Goldenfields Guard and kind of securing that flank. So what I'll do is I'll roll a dice. On a 1 to 4, we're going to take out Thorgrin. 5 to 8, it'll be Edmund the Ox. And on a 9 or a 10, it'll be Harbin. So let's roll that dice. 2, Thorgrin's Shield Splitter is hit by a sniper, probably from that Wolf Rider regiment. Those bastards. Despite that bad luck, the Dwarves have 1 initiative, so they're going to start with Thazak, who will be activating on 4s. He succeeds, and he'll be using 2 dice to cast Explosive Ammunition on Avhilda. So 2 dice, 10 5s. He succeeds with a 5. Just. The Goblins don't like the sound of that, so during Thazak's turn, Char is going to pivot, and then he is going to attempt to activate. 2 dice, then 6s. He succeeds with a 7. And he'll be casting Fireball onto Avhilda. 2 dice, then 7s. He does not get it off. Lucky me. Avhilda's up next. 2 dice, then 4s. Succeeding with a 6. And Avhilda will be taking a shot at Gralk and his bodyguard up on the hill there. 5 dice, because the target has 4 ranks, including the champion dice. We are shoot 3, +1 for having explosive ammunition. Shoot 4 on defense 9, means we require 5s. That was pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits there. So the entire back rank goes down, and Gralk and his unit must now make a courage check. They'll receive 3 dice, -5 for casualties, +1 for having more than 2 ranks, and +1 for having courage. So at -3, they will require 9s on 3 dice. And they succeed with a 10. On the Goblin's turn, we'll attempt to activate the Goblin Archers. They are within 6 inches of Gralk and his unit, so they'll get 3 dice, then 6s. No. Despite failing their activation, they can still shoot, so they'll be shooting over the unit in front of them and into the Goldenfield Guard. They'll receive 5 dice. They are shoot 1, +1 for having an extra rank, but -1 for having moved. So shoot 1 on defense 9 means they'll need 8s. And we have 2 hits there, so 2 of the guard go down, and they are required to make a morale check. -2 for casualties, +1 for having more than 2 ranks, and +1 for a shooting attack means they'll need 5s on 2 dice. They succeed with a 9. On the Dwarf and Human turn, we'll activate the Goldenfield Bowmen. 2 dice, then 5s. Let's do that in the tray. With 5, they succeed. They'll be shooting over the Goldenfield Guard and into those Goblin soldiers. They'll receive 4 dice because the Goblins have shields. They are shoot 2, +1 for having an extra rank, shoot 3 on defense 9, so they'll require 6s. 1, 2, 3 successes there. So the Goblins will be required to make a morale check. 3 dice because they are within range of Gralk, -3 for casualties, and +2 from shooting and ranks, so they'll need 7s. They succeed. Next up, the Goblin Wolf Rider Scouts on the flank. 2 dice, then 6s. They succeed with a 10, and they'll be shooting across at the Spears of South Pass. They will receive 4 dice because the Dwarves have shields. They are shoot 1 against defense 10, so they will need 9s. No casualties there. and they will use their second action to move up 8 inches. The Stout Hearts are next. 3 dice for being in range of Baridoc, needing 4s. They successfully activate with a 7. These Stout Hearts will be shooting at their closest target, which is now the Goblin Wolf Rider Scouts. 5 dice. They are shoot 2, +1 for your next strength, shoot 3. On defense 11, means they will require 8s. 1, 2, 3 there. Ouch. The Wolf Rider Scouts must now make a morale check. I'll be making this at -3 because of casualties being less than a full rank, but it being a shooting attack. So they will require 9s on 2 dice. 8, not quite, so they become disordered. The Goblins will continue their turn by moving units up. Let's start with this unit of Goblin Spearmen. 3 dice for being in range of Bruss, needing 6s. They fail their activation, so they will just be making a simple action, which is going to be to move forward 6 inches. On the Dwarf turn, we'll activate the Spears of South Pass, down to 1 dice because they lost their officer. And the tray, and 4s, they succeed with a 4. And they will be advancing forward 7.5 inches. Let's continue advancing this Goblin right flank. 3 dice for Bruss and his Goblin Spears, needing 6s. They succeed with 10s. And they will be moving forward 6 inches. Followed by a further 3. Well, 2.5 because they can't get within an inch of an enemy unit, so they'll get as close as they can. The Defender's turn now, and we'll activate Baridoc Kingston and the Hammerheart Oathsworn. 3 dice, needing 4s. They succeed with an 8. And they are going to move sideways in order to try and protect Abhilda from that fireball casting Goblin Shaman over there. The first action will be to move across 2.5 inches, followed by a further 1.25, which still leaves us with a nice line of sight for Abhilda to shoot across the right flank. On the Goblin turn, let's get those Ogres moving up. 3 dice, needing 7s. They succeed with 10s. They will be moving 6 inches forward. Let's get that tree out of the way, eh? 6 inches forward, and then they will wheel on that front corner like so. On the Defender's turn, we'll activate Edmund the Ox. He'll receive 3 dice for being within range of Baridoc. So 3 dice, needing 5s. They succeed with a 9. And I think charging those Ogres right now is a bit foolhardy, so Edmund the Ox will be moving 3 inches sideways. And then we're just going to wheel slightly. On the Goblin's turn, we'll activate Stirred and his Goblin soldiers. 3 dice for being within range of Gralk's unit, needing 6s. They succeed with a 7. Their first action will be to move up 6 inches. And their second action will be to wheel on the front corner, just like so. The last Defender unit to activate will be the Goldenfields Guard. 2 dice, needing 5s. They succeed with a 10. But once again, charging ahead right now is a bit foolhardy. So they will instead move 3 inches sideways. And then they're going to wheel. Nope, they're just going to stay there. Back to the Goblin's turn, we'll be activating Gralk. 3 dice, requiring 6s. He succeeds with a 7. And he will be moving 6 inches, followed by a further 3. And the final unit to activate this turn will be the Goblin Wolf Riders. 2 dice, needing 6s. They fail their activation, so they are going to wheel in the front corner, just like so. Yeah, at the end of turn 2, the Goblin line is advancing. The Dwarves and humans are pretty much holding position. Wolf Riders on the Goblin right flank are in a bit of trouble. But other than that, they're soaking up damage without a problem. Let's start turn 3 as always with an initiative roll. A 10 will give the initiative to the Dwarves. Things are about to get hairy, so let's start by activating Thazak. 2 dice, needing 4s. Okay, never mind that. On to the Goblins. It is most definitely ouch time. Let's start by activating Gralk. 3 dice, requiring 6s. They succeed with an 8. And he'll be using his command ability to also activate this unit here. 3 dice, requiring 6s. They succeed with a 10. Alright. Ouch time indeed. So to start with, this unit is going to wheel on its front corner. And then it will be moving 6 inches into contact with the unit of Longspears and fighting around a combat. The Goblins charge. Stirred is there, so they get 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 1. They do not get their charge bonus because the Longspears have brace. So fight 1, plus 1 for strength. Fight 2 on defense 9 means they will require 7s. We have 1, 2, 3 casualties there. The Longspears strike back. They receive 5 dice. They are fight 3, plus 1 for strength. Fight 4. 4s on 9s mean they require 5s. We have 1, 2, 3 casualties caused there. So the combat is even. Both sides will, however, be required to make a morale check. Stirred will make his with 3 dice because he's within range of Gralk's unit. -3 for casualties means he will require 9s. That is a failure, so Stirred and his unit of Goblin soldiers become disordered. A morale check for the Goldenfields Guard. They are -3 for casualties, but +1 for having at least 2 ranks, so they will require 7s on 2 dice. They succeed with the 10. Both sides push back 1 inch. And both count as being activated. The action then continues with Gralk's turn. He will be moving 6 inches forward as his first action, which means that his second action, moving 3 inches forward, is going to allow him to hit the flank of Edmund's lads. Ouch time! Gralk seems to have a habit of this. Alright, Gralk and his soldiers receive 5 dice, including the champion dice. They do not get their charge because Edmund's lads have had brace cast on them. So they are fight 1, +2 for having extra ranks, and +1 for being in the flank. So they are fight 4 on defense 9. They will require 5s. That wasn't so bad. We have 1, 2, 3 hits there. Gralk himself rolling a 2. I should have declared earlier, but it was my intent that Edmund the Ox was fighting alone, so they would have actually been on a higher defense, but that doesn't matter. Edmund the Ox fighting alone will receive fight 4 with 3 dice, including the champion dice. Fight 4 on defense 9 will mean he requires 5s. Well done, Edmund the Ox. There are 4 hits there. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blimmin' heck. Edmund the Ox. Ouch. Alright, well, morale checks then, I guess. Blimmin' heck. Let's start with Edmund the Ox. He receives -3 for casualties. So he will require 8s. He is just within range of Baridoc, so he'll receive 3 dice. So 3 dice requiring 8. He succeeds with an 8. And Gralk will have to make a check. He will receive 3 dice. He receives -5 for casualties, but +1 for having more than 2 ranks, and +1 for courage. So he will be rolling 9s. He succeeds with a 10. Edmund is going to choose to push Gralk back 6 inches, which is going to make things real interesting. So what we'll do is we'll move these units that are in the way back out, because they will be in the way. So they move straight backwards until they are no longer causing a problem. Oh boy, that's all kinds of messy. On the Dwarfs' turn, we're going to activate the Stout Hearts. They will receive 3 dice, needing 4s. They get 4s, they successfully activate. These Stout Hearts want to soften up the unit of Goblin Spears here. Unfortunately, they're not close enough to be able to draw a line of sight, so what they're going to do is use their first action to move forward through difficult terrain. So they'll go 2.5 inches forward. That move will get them within 3 inches of the South Pass Spears, so they can now fire over and into the unit of Goblin Spears there. They're going to get 4 dice because the Goblins have shields. They are shoot 2, +1 for an extra rank, but -1 for moving. So shoot 2 on defense 9, they will require 7s. We have 1 hit there. That's all I needed. So 1 goblin goes down. They must now make a morale check. They'll be making that with 3 dice because Bruss is leading the unit. And they'll get +1 because they have enough ranks and it was a shooting attack. So needing 5s, they succeed with a 6. On the goblin turn, we're activating Bruss. 3 dice, needing 6s. He fails his activation. Well, that's a bummer. I guess that's it. Great. In that case, on the Dwarves' turn, the Spears of South Pass are going to attempt to activate and take advantage of Goblin's unruly nature. So they receive 1 dice, needing 4s. They succeed with an 8. So they will be moving directly forward and into contact with those Goblins. The Goblins will shield. So the Dwarves will get 4 dice. They have fight 2, +2 for extra ranks, fight 4 and defense 9, so they will require 5s. Nothing there. 1s and 2s. Alright, the Goblins will fight back. The Goblins fight back 4 dice, including the champion dice, because Bruss is leading the unit. They are fight 1, +2 for extra ranks, fight 3 on defense 10, so they will require 7s. Ouch, and we have 4 casualties there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that backfired. So the Dwarves will be required to make a morale check. They are at 1 dice because they lost their officer. -4 for casualties, but +1 for having more than 2 ranks. So they will need 7s. Unfortunately, they fail. And the Goblins will choose to push them back 6 inches. Bugger! The Goblins don't want to commit the Ogres just yet, or Hilda will have a field day. So instead they are going to activate the Goblin Archers at the back here. 2 dice, needing 6s. They succeed with a 6. And they're out of range of anybody at the moment. So they'll move forward 6 inches. And then they can draw a line of sight to Edmund's lads. They'll receive 4 dice because Edmund's lads have shields. They are shoot 1, +1 if having extra rank, but -1 for moving. So shoot 1 on defense 9, they will require 8s. There are 3 hits there. So Edmund and the lads will have to make a morale check. -3 for casualties, -1 for being less than a full rank, but +1 for it being a shooting attack. So -3 on 2 dice, they will require 8s. They fail, so they are disordered. Good shooting. It is the defender's turn, and so we'll be activating the Goldenfield Bowmen. 2 dice, needing 5s. They succeed with an 8, and they'll be shooting at their closest target, which are Gralk and his bodyguard. Shooting them in the flank, so they'll get shielding, so it'll be 4 dice. Shoot 2, +1 for rank. Shoot 3 on defense 9, means they require 6s. We have 1, 2, 3 there. So Gralk and his bodyguard will be required to make a morale check. They'll receive -3 for casualties, but +2 from courage and it being a shooting attack. So they will need 7s on 3 dice. They don't get it, so they become disordered. There is still no hurry for the ogres to do anything, so these Goblin Spearmen will activate. 3 dice. Because they are in range of Bruss, needing 6s. They succeed with 6s, and they will be advancing forward in order to tie up Baridoc and the Hammerheart Oathsworn. So 6 inches. And then wheel to hide the flank, which is hopefully not a mistake. On the Dwarves' turn, we will be activating Baridoc Kingston. 3 dice, needing 4s. He succeeds with a 10. And he is going to use his first action to advance forward 6 inches and charge into those goblins, who wheeled slightly too far, I think. The goblins are going to choose to shield in order to survive somewhat. So Baridoc will get 4 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 2, +2 for extra ranks, fight 4 on defense 9, so they'll require 5s. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. The goblins will strike back. They are fight 1, +1 for having an extra rank, but -1 for having already activated. So fight 1 on defense 10 means they will require 9s. 1 casualty back. And morale checks. So let's start with the goblins. They receive -5 for casualties, so they're going to require 11s on 2 dice. So looking for that 10. Nope, so they become disordered. And the dwarves make a check. They are at -1 for casualty, but +1 for having more than 2 ranks. So 3 dice requiring 4s. They succeed with a 9. And the dwarves are going to choose to move back 1 inch. Goblins are up next. Let's see if the Wolf Rider Scouts rally. 2 dice, needing 7s. They succeed with the 10, so they're no longer disordered, but they may only take a simple action, which is going to be to shoot into the Spears of South Pass. They will receive 3 dice because they are combat dice 2 each, and the dwarves have shields. They are shoot 1, -1 for only being able to do a simple action. Shoot 0 on defense 10 means they will require 10s. Nothing there. We are on to the dwarves' turn. Let's see if we can do some work. Hilda will activate 2 dice, needing 4s. Good, she succeeds on a 9. And Hilda will be taking a cheeky shot over the field and into Gralk's unit. We can draw a line of sight through Hilda's front arc and touch the bases of 1, 2, 3 of the models in Gralk's unit. So we've got a clear shot. And classically my battery would die just then. Alright, so taking a shot at Gralk's unit, we get the champion dice as base, plus 2 additional dice because there are 2 partial ranks. We are shoot 3 versus defense 9, so we require 6s. 1 there. And Gralk and his bodyguard must now make a morale check. 3 dice, -1 for the casualty, -1 from being disordered, but +1 from courage. So he's going to need 7s. And a 5 is not going to do it. So Gralk and his bodyguard flee. Ideal. Let's measure some things first, eh? So with the arrows and stone shot raining in and his flank exposed, Gralk flees, causing units within 8 inches of him to test for cascading panic. So within 8 inches are the archers and the ogres, as well as those soldiers there. So let's start with the soldiers. They'll have to make a check. Gralk is no longer there, so they'll be using 2 dice. They receive no modifiers on this roll, so even though they are disordered, they don't get a -1 for that. So 2 dice, they will need 6s to stick around. They are gone. Alright, the archers. 2 dice needing 6s. With a 5, the archers will become disordered. On to the ogres. Ogres have courage 2, so they will require 5s. And they roll a 5, ideal. Now, because Stirred and his bodyguard fled, we have to make a morale check for the wolf riders as well. 2 dice, needing 6s. They succeed. Alright. What a mess. That right flank is slightly less scary now. On to the Goblins' turn. Char is going to attempt to activate. 2 dice, needing 6s. He succeeds with a 6, and he will be casting Fireball on Avhilda now. 2 dice requiring 7s. He successfully casts. Alright. 2 dice, shoot 4 on defense 9 means we require 5s. 2 wounds there. Right, Avhilda is required to make a morale check. -2 from casualties, +1 for it being a shooting attack, but -1 for having less than a full rank. So they're going to need 6s on 2 dice. And they succeed with a 10. Well, he succeeds with a 10. There's only 1 crew member left now. Ouch. All of the defending units have activated. So now we're back to the goblins again. Let's activate these ogres. 2 dice, then 7s. They succeed with a 10. I don't think that they can hit Baridoc's unit. I believe this one here is going to block them in any attempt they make. Could be wrong. No, because they can't move 6 inches to get there. And if they wheel, they'll be hitting this unit first. So they're going to wheel on this corner. Like so. And then use their second action to move 6 inches into Edmund's lads. Edmund is going to choose to fight alone, and do we shield? Yeah, we'd better shield, I think. So the ogres will get 4 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 4. They don't get their charge bonus because Edmund's lads have had brace cast on them. So fight 4 versus Edmund's defense of 10 means they require 6s. 1, 2. And then Edmund strikes back. He receives 2 dice. He's normally 3, but -1 for shielding, including the champion dice. He is fight 4, -1 for having already activated, and minus a further 1 for being disordered. So fight 2 on defense 11, he requires 9s. And there is 1 wound there. So Edmund's unit well and truly lost that, and they'll be required to make a morale check. -2 for casualties, -1 for less than a full rank, and -1 for me just ordered. So they're at -4, needing 9s. Now is when Edmund is going to use his heroic ability, Stand Your Ground. And so he automatically passes that morale check, but he still remains disordered. And the ogres choose what to do. I think they will be pushing Edmund back 6 inches, or as far as he can. So he'll be going back to the building. Well, that wasn't as bad as it could have been. And the final unit to activate will be the Goblin Wolf Riders. 2 dice requiring 6s. They fail once again. And they are going to advance to continue threatening this flank. Here we are at the end of turn 3. A streak of bad luck has really shifted things in the defender's favour, with the goblins running away or unable to take advantage of various opportunities. Let's start turn 4 with an initiative roll. We have an 8 going to the goblins. So the goblins shall start by activating Bruss and his spears. 3 dice needing 6s, and they fail their activation again. Well, bother. I guess they'll just pivot on their opposite in order to line up down here a bit better. Let's take this shot while we can. We're going to activate Avhilda. 2 dice needing 4s. She succeeds with a 10, and she'll be firing into the flank of the ogres. So Avhilda receives the champion dice base, +1 dice for 1 rank, +1 dice for being large, and then +2 dice for hitting the unit in the flank. 5 dice including the champion dice. Shoot 3 against the ogre's defense of 11, means you require 8s. 1 hit there with a 10, so that's 1 more wound. The goblins will now attempt to activate the Wolf Rider Scouts. 2 dice, needing 6s. They succeed with a 10. And they will be shooting from where they are into the Spears of South Pass. 3 dice, because the Wolf Riders have 2 combat dice each, but the Dwarves will be shielding. So they are shoot 1 against defense 10. They will require 9s. Almost, but not quite. Back to the Dwarves' turn, and we'll try to do some fancy command shenanigans again. So let's start by activating Baridoc and the Hammerheart Oathsworn. 3 dice needing 4s. He succeeds with a 6. And he'll be using his command ability to activate the Stout Hearts at the same time. They are just within 6 inches. So 3 dice needing 4s. They successfully activate with a 7. Now, let's see if this works out. We will be wheeling this unit on the front corner. Like so. Until we have a model, within 3 inches of the Hammerheart Oathsworn. They'll then be using their second action to shoot over the Hammerheart Oathsworn and into that unit of disordered Goblin Spearmen. The Goblin Spearmen will shield. The Stout Hearts will get 4 dice. They are shoot 2, +1 for a rank, shoot 3, but -1 for moving. So shoot 2 on defense 9, they will require 7s. We have 1 10 there. So 1 of those goblins goes down. And they are required to make a morale check. They are at -1 for having a casualty, but +1 for that being a shooting attack, -1 for being disordered, and -1 for having less than a full rank. So at -2, they will require 8 to stick around. Yes, and they only got a 7. Because they have panicked and fled, each unit within 8 inches of them must make a check for cascading panic. The big unit there is outside 8 inches. However, the ogres are within 8 inches. So they will make a check. They'll get +2 for having courage. So they'll require 7s. Correction, they'll require 5s. And they succeed, no worries. That frees up Baridoc Kingston and the Hammerheart Oathsworn to complete their activation by pivoting on this front corner. And then moving 5 inches forward into the rear of those ogres. Alright, so Baridoc and the Hammerheart Oathsworn get 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 2, +1 for an extra rank, and +1 for attack in the flank or rear. So fight 4 on defense 11 means they require 7s. We have 1, 2 there, so that'll cost the ogres a model, and 1 wound on the remainder. The ogres will then fight back. The ogres get 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 4, -1 for having been attacked in the back. So fight 3 on defense 10. They will require 7s. Now is the time for Baridoc to use his special ability Shield Wall, which gives him +2 defense, taking his defense up to 12. So the ogre's fight of 3 on defense 12 will mean they require 9s to cause a wound. There is 1 9 there, so 1 dwarf goes down. Good choice, we saved 2 hits there. So the combat is even, both sides have caused 1 casualty, but both sides will have to make a morale check. So we'll start with Baridoc Kingston. 3 dice, -1 for taking the casualty, but +1 for having more than 2 ranks, so he will require 4s. He succeeds with a 7. The ogres will have to make a check. They are -1 for suffering a casualty, and a further -1 for being less than a full rank. So they will require 7s. They succeed with an 8. And then both sides are pushed back by 1 inch. I do love it when a plan comes together. Back to the Goblins' turn, where we will attempt to activate their Goblin Archers. 2 dice, needing 7s because they're disordered. 6, unfortunately, they are not going to get rid of that disordered token. And they will shoot at their closest target, the Hammerheart Oathsworn. They're shooting them in the flank, so they'll get 4 dice because of shielding. They are shoot 1, +1 for having an extra rank, but -1 because they can only take a simple action this turn. So shoot 1 on defense 10, they will require 9s. A lot of 6s, no 9s. The Goldenfields Bowmen will be the next to activate. 2 dice, needing 5s. They fail their activation. They'll be shooting at the closest target, which is going to be the Goblin Wolf Riders. They will get 4 dice because the Wolf Riders can shield. They are shoot 3, -1 for failing their activation against defense 11, so they will require 9s. There is 1 9 there, so 1 Wolf Rider goes down. And the others must make a morale check. They'll be making that at -1 for casualties and being less than a full rank, but it being a shooting attack, so they will require 7s. They succeed with a 10. And with that last casualty, the Goblins are going to concede. They no longer have enough units with 5 models in them to be able to claim victory. And so they are going to run away, and victory will go to the defenders of Goldenfields. Alright, so we have some damaged units we have to roll for to see what happens with them. Let's start with Thorgrin, who was struck down by a sniper right at the start of the battle. He's going to be rolling on the legendary hero. He is going to be rolling on the legendary heroes and death chart of Oathbreakers. And 8, he just suffered flesh wounds, so luckily he's going to be available for the next battle. Edmund the Ox and Edmund's lads must make a roll because there are only 2 of them left. So they're going to be rolling on the destroyed units and battle honours table of Battlesworn. They'll be adding +2 to the result because there are 2 models left. So they've rolled an 8 light casualties. They will be available for the next game. And finally we have Avhilda. Avhilda has 1 single crewman left. So we'll make a roll for Avhilda and just add 1 to the result. A 2 gives us a 3 heavy casualties. Roll a d6, divide by 2, and that's how many battles they miss. 2 to 1, so Avhilda will be missing from the next battle. And there we have it, victory for the defenders of Goldenfields. I feel like a lot of that battle came down to luck. I think the Goblins made some pretty good manoeuvres and had a few things going on their side early in the game, such as Forgrim's Shield Splitter being taken down by a sniper. But unfortunately, when it came time to make good on all of those advantages, they just couldn't do it. Gralk bouncing off Edmund's unit, being unable to activate anything on the right flank and punish the Spears of South Pass while they were officerless and disordered. Yeah, they didn't have a whole lot of luck. The Dwarves and the humans were able to roll the big numbers when they needed to, but unfortunately for the Goblins, any time they wanted a success, they weren't able to get it. But that's how the game goes. I think with the Goblins fleeing, Baridoc is still after some revenge for his earlier defeat, so I think he'll be chasing those Goblins down. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed the game. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Thank you very much for sticking around, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.